Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner, classic, non-classic. This is episode 2950, it is 29, I want to be sure I got this correct. It is 2963, Doubleshot number 2857. Okay, so, got a couple different books here. First we're discussing Cable issues 71 to 74, 78 to 86, and 88 through 96. You're thinking, wait, that's like a little over 20 issues here. Well, now, mostly put, these issues are done by let's see if I can find a writer here. Is Jeff Pruitt. And Rob Liefeld does some of these issues. Yes, Rob Liefeld, which, like, really? Well, it makes sense that he would do some co-writing with these issues. Now, you're probably thinking, why would that be? Well, he did create Cable, so it makes total sense he would basically do some co-writing duties with this book. So yeah, I think he does it for like a couple issues, like 2 or 3 issues. So yeah, mostly put basically he's in the future, and he's basically fighting future versions of Cable, Domino, Warpath, Meltdown, and that's basically Boom Boom, and Jesse Kramer. Basically, a future version of X-Force, and fighting Ahab and dealing with Sentinels. It's mostly the future, of course, featuring his sister as well. And then the very next issue is basically just reveals the real name of the character named Post, who is this mutant here. He gets, sadly, he's not around for very long. No, he isn't. He debuted at X-Men number 50. This is volume 50. He's around for a very short period of time. Yeah, so he's only here for this book for a couple issues, and then he's brought back another book. Actually, it's a flashback of that one. And pretty much in the way, the big thing about these issues, we see return of Caliban in these, yes, and also X-Force is basically back in the book. So probably has one last thing, and Joe Pruitt still is writing here. In case you're curious, how many issues does Rob Liefeld do? Do for this book per se? I think it's like 2, 3 issues. I know it's a very short run for the book. He does 71, 73, 75, and 77. Those are the issues he does for the book. Yeah, and Caliban becomes Pestilence. We also see the return of Helions in here. It's nice that basically they brought back X-Force in the book because, well, why not? And then skipping over 75 because, well, 75 to 80 to 78 discussed those already, so skipping straight to 79. Which brought the Revolution crossover. Yes. Which, it was only part of this little thing for like 1 issue. And here's the weird thing. This book, for some reason, these issues are not in trade for some reason, but you have the issues that come afterwards are in trade. You're thinking, really? Yeah. So we have debut of this group known as the Undying. Yeah, they're a new group of people who debut in these issues. And they're only around from 79 to 84. Yep, and Cable has to deal with them throughout these issues. And of course, Cable, during the course of issues, he also is wearing the outfit he sported at the end of the Age of Apocalypse, where he's like has like a partial outfit. He did have Cyclops' visor, part of his neck attire, but he later get back to Cyclops at the end of the Search Cyclops miniseries, which at the end of it, he killed Apocalypse, and he remained dead for, good gosh, about 6 years, until he got brought back in the Blood of Apocalypse storyline. And after issue 84, with the whole Undying thing wrapping up, and then we have the character Ganthet show. We continue with the fall of the clan Akasin. That's the group he's part of. Yeah. And Ganthet was debuted in issue 83. He gets killed off in 86. Yeah, and also Irie Mayweather, who's been a recurring character in this book, is issue 48. She's still been featured prominently in this book. She's also featured in the spin-off book Hellfire Club, but she's back in the book full-time right now. But she was featured sporadically, like here. At one point, she actually kisses Cable. Yes, she does, because she's in love with Cable. You're like, really? Yeah, she's in love with Cable. Yep, and the character Ganthet himself is killed off with basically the next issue. And then skipping over issue number 87, because that was part of the Dreams End crossover. Hang on here. Now skipping straight to issue 88. This is when Cable leaves the X-Men. Yep, and we have the first appearance of the Dark Sisterhood. They're a group of witches debuted in this issue, and they're around for a pretty good period of time. Basically, they're kind of like an evil antagonist group. And they're here from issue 88 to 95 as like recurring villains for Cable. And of course, also with issue 93 begins a story known as Countdown. That concluded with issue 97, 95. 96 is a standalone issue where it features the whole thing of growing up, like the whole famous image of like Evolution of Man cover. Also, I should point out though, Joe Pruitt is no longer writing this book. Yes. In case you're curious though, when did he stop writing the book? Now, Joe Pruitt, who had been the writer of the book... No, that's not it here. Here we go. So, Joe Pruitt became writer of book issue 71, and he skipped 72, but he was the primary writer of this book into issue 78. And then with 79, we have a brand new writer in the book. And this writer would be the primary writer for a little while. His writer's name is Robert Winberg, and also we have Michael Rand in the artwork. Robert Winberg, and here's the thing, Cable Story was also his first comic he wrote for Marvel, and he began the book into issue 96. Yeah, he wrote, basically in the way, 18 straight issues, and then he did a miniseries called Nightshade, which, it's not the Nightshade from the Prime Universe, no, it's a different Nightshade. Yeah, where after he did his miniseries, he left the company. It's like he was brought in to write Cable for a brief period of time. Also, I should point something interesting about the covers for Cable. That beginning with issue 91, actually, what issue was it? It was not that one. Here we go. Beginning with issue 93. Let me show up the cover here. They have a new banner. Yes. So, for a while, that was the logo they had for the covers of the book. And then beginning with issue 93 until the final issue of this book. Basically, that is the current logo, what the books look like. With the Marvel Comics on top. And it remained like that for the remainder of the series. Well, basically this first volume. He's also has some connections with S.H.I.E.L.D. in these issues. Well, thanks to his friend George Washington Bridge, aka G.W. Bridge. Yeah, he had been back as a recurring character in this book. He came back in the book full time, issue 59. He was there at 16 and came back with issue 80. Was there 83 and came back for 91, 96, 95. Then he's done with the book. Yep. And then he's featured other books since then. At one point, the guy died. And then he was brought back, like, he died in the Punisher, of all things. He died in Punisher, Volume 8, Number 10. And then he came back. Let's see. He came back in, I think it was in Split Second. He came back in split second. Well, probably a flashback, but yeah, he basically came back kind of in the miniseries Ravencroft. Yeah, in Twilight Ravencroft, that's when he finally came back to life. He's back to life now for 4 years, but Marvel's done pretty much nothing with the character. Not really. But in the case of these Cable issues, they're actually pretty good. Also, Irene becomes Margaret Bentrunch with issue 92, and she remains like that for a little while. It's just a code name that she basically, well, yeah, but good issues for Cable. I give these issues roughly a 9 out of 10. Next up we have is the, in a way, the last X-Force Epic Collection, because the rest of the time we talk about X-Force, there's an actual series of graphic novels. Yes. The first two part of the Counter X stuff, and then, of course, stop. Thank you. Yeah. So, basically, there are 2 trades for Counter X, and there's also one trade that is a lead-in into the replacement series, this one, X-Static. This is X-Force Epic Collection, Volume 9, Armageddon Now. And by the way, the cover is actually Hamat. You can run the issues in here. This book collects X-Force 85 to 100 and annuals 98 and 99. Annual 98 was a crossover with Champions. Yep, it was also the last known appearance of the original Champions until I think it was a tie-in to World War Hulk there briefly back in flashback, and they kind of came back full time briefly in the pages of Iceman. Yeah, mostly put the X-Force team with them one last time. It was like a brief reunion. It was the first reunion of this team since it disbanded back in the 70s. The latest issues are John Francis Moore, Tom Burnham, Mary Burnham, and Fabian Nicieza. Artwork Angel Yosia, Terry Shoemaker, Jim Chung, Tom Lee Edwards, Mark S. Miller, Anthony Williams, Chris Renaud, Nelson DeZero, Gus Banquez, and Ken Lashley. Okay, those of you might be asking, Nick, have you met any of these people? I've met Fabian Nicieza. Yep, he's the only one who works in these issues basically now. Oh, by the way, these issues were released from early January of 1999, and the last issue was released in March of 2000. So, I think we do have Cable guest star in one of these issues, as relates to stuff related to stuff from his book. There's stuff here with the Hellfire Club, and there's all stuff here where they run into Magneto in these issues. Yes. Unlike the previous issues, were just okay. These feel like a lot better side of the issues. Yes, definitely. Now, I like these issues a whole lot better because one thing I was not a fan of when they removed Cable in the book became just odd. It just felt as though they had no direction for a while, and now we have a good direction. Also, we have a new character named Bedlam. He joins X-Force with this very issue. He just made his debut. Yeah. And of course, they have Possession here. The roster is pretty huge at this point. It's got like 1, 2, 3. There's like 8 people part of this team at this point. You have Siren, aka Banshee, Cannonball, Meltdown, aka Boom Boom, Sunspot, Moonstar, Bedlam, John Proudstar, and Domino. Oh yeah, at one point Domino does return in the pages of Cable. And of course, they also with Democles Foundation, which were a original group, debuted in issue 79. They are a group associated with the Eternals. Yes. And they're probably featured in the couple of issues published as trade here for issues 86 and 88 and 87 and 88. And of course, they're featured in Judgment Day crossover. But yeah, it's like, yeah, X-Force is like the Eternals, which is interesting. And then issue 87 begins the Armageddon Now story arc that started with issue 87 and concluded with issue 90. And basically with these issues, it's them versus a brand new group of Helions. Yep. That's pretty much the plot for here. New Helions. I gotta say, it's a really interesting idea. I like the whole idea of that. Yeah, but deal with them for the next 2 issues. I'm like, okay, interesting. Yeah, and after the story concludes, and then pretty much in the way, we move on to a brand new, this character named Halloween Jack, who is a character who debuted in 2099, who apparently decided to come to pass for some reason. Yeah, he appears after appearing in 2029 World tomorrow. He's here for 2 issues, and he appears in Captain Marvel. Also, Siren leaves the team issue number 91. Yeah, she leaves the group, and the group is reduced down to 1, 2, 3. Yeah, basically we're down to 7 people now, part of this group. And we still did with Eternals, and with Unity 3, we still did with Eternals. Yeah, for some reason we're dealing with the Eternals and X-Force, because of some bad guy Eternals in this book. And if you're curious how long the Eternals featured in this very book, they only feature for 2 issues. Just after 97, they're pretty much out of the book. Plus, they were debuting Relic the Destroyer, who just this guy who appears for 1 issue. Also, then we have Sunspot leaving the group with issue 93. And with 94, basically, we're now down to 6 people. So we deal with the Genosians in here. Basically, to go to Genosha, this is where the X-Force stuff comes in. This is where Magneto stuff comes in for this book. Yeah. And it's here for the next 2 issues when I deal with Magneto. And then we have Damocles Foundation return. We also have the debut of Lucius Gertrude. Who is this guy? Cannonball's uncle. Yeah. We do have a death in issue 97. A character named Richfire, who is a famous season character debuted in issue 26 of this very book. Yeah, and he was featured a little bit at first, and he was brought back once, and then he was brought back as a recurring character, and then he was brought back in for a couple issues, and he was revived in Rise of Powers of X. Yeah, we also deal with Selene in issue. In 98, we deal with the resurrection of Julene Saville. Who is this character? Sunspot's girlfriend. Who actually died in the original Marvel Comics number 1 shot. Yeah, she died. And then she was brought back here for these 3 issues, and she was seen in Marvel Voices community. Oh, and the cover for the Epic Collection that comes from issue 100 of this very book. Yeah, we're debuting issue 100, a future version of X-Force. It's like, they go Ultra Reality where, and of course you do also an Ultraverse of the X-Men. Yes. Because of course we have this character named the Queen of Swords, who is like the main villain of this issue. She debuted in issue 83. This will be her last appearance in comics. Yeah. Mostly put is just 100 issues of X-Force and just dealing with, well, the whole thing with this is basically like, we have alternate versions of these characters who show up in this book. But what about Annual 999? Well, it's mostly put just characters from the main book having their own stories. Like the opening story features Richter and Shatterstar. Second story features Cannonball Moonstar, John Proudstar. And third story deals with Richter, Shatterstar, and Neurotip. We do have a couple deaths and things. One is Hannah Versha, who debuted in X-Force 42. It's like, oh, let's bring her back and just have her die in this annual. And well, there's also a character named Marisha, who's a, it's like this thing deals with, like, the best way to describe this annual, it's like, oh, let's have the X-Force characters deal with science experiments. Okay. And the annual itself was written by Fabian Nicieza in his brief return of the book. I read it. The writing was actually pretty good in the book. It just, the story was kind of weird. Yep, and that's pretty much X-Force in a nutshell. Oh, and also, the Annual 99 was the final ever annual release for the series. Well, final annual was Volume 3 release in the annual. Yes, believe it or not, Volume 3 had an annual. You're like, really? Yeah, one annual. Yep. And was there published? There was. Part of the previous volume for the series, not the current one. The previous one. So overall, if you're really curious, how many annuals overall released for X-Force? X-Force, let's see, 3, 5. Let's see, 4 plus 3, it's 7, 8. So overall, X-Force has had 10 annuals released. Yep, 10 annuals. And that was the last one published. Well, that one, and for one released in 1999, that was the last one released for 10 years. Yep, we've not seen one for 10 years. And after that one came out, the one for Volume 3, next one to come out until 13 years later. Which I think this was done by Ben Percy. No, it's done by someone else. But, yeah. But I actually enjoyed these issues for X-Force. A lot better than the previous set of issues. Yep, so not many issues left to go for X-Force Volume 1. If you're curious, there are 29 issues left to go for the whole book. And then we're done with Volume 1. The plan is, once finished Volume 1, it'll be X-Static and then X-Force Volume 2. And that's it for X-Force. Yep. So yeah, that's particularly a particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do this like button. Well, I think I might just go. I have some Christmas shopping to do and be right back to work on the next 2 episodes of The Strongest Mage Demon Hunter Was Human. Okay? Thanks for you.